must discuss this at length. Ana si Pope Francis, divorce is evil. Pope Francis says divorce is evil. So does the church for 2,000 years. So what mo pagingon ni Christ? It is only because of the hardness of our hearts that Moses allowed divorce. Kay gahi ag mga kasing-kasing. Gahi patag ulo. Unsa ang nature sa divorce? Divorce is contrary to the indissolubility of marriage. Remember, one of the property of marriage is indissolubility. And what divorce does is to separate what is inseparable and to dissolve what is indissoluble. But we ask ourselves, nabagay right ang state, ana? Nabagay right ang tao na mo-declare, ana? Wala. And we will learn later why that is the source sa evil of divorce. Nganong evil ang divorce? Nako'y nakita na upat ka rason why divorce is evil. And all of these things are due to the fact that they are violating something. Divorce is evil because it is a violation of, number one, the divine positive law. Ang ingon sa Ginoo, ang ingon sa divine revelation sa scriptures, what God has joined, let no one separate. Let no man put asunder. What God had joined together, let no man put asunder. Dili nimo pwede bulagon kung unsa ang gi-join sa Ginoo. And what divorce does is exactly katong gingon sa Ginoo na dili nimo pwede himuon. So it is a violation of divine positive law. It is also a violation against natural law. Daghana day mga batas ano nino. It claims to break the contract to which the spouses freely consented to live with each other until death. Natural law, we vow freely and with kanang expressed consent for me to take this person kanang as my spouse, and that nothing except death will be able to separate us. Tapos karon, pag umani mo vow ana, maygon kag dili nako, divorce. It's a violation of natural law. Third, it violates katong covenant of salvation. Kung sa pasabot ana, it does injury to the covenant. Why? First thing na istorya na to ganina is that we discussed earlier is that marriage is a sign. It's a sign of what? A sign of the covenant of salvation. Itong covenant of God with man. And what divorce does is to take away ang katong sign that was instituted by Christ. And so divorce is a violation of this. It does injury to the covenant of salvation. Last ba ni? Last. Aside from it is a violation, it also introduces disorder. So it's a violation of the proper ordering of things. Why? What divorce does is to introduce disorder sa family mismo. And out of that disorder in the family, disorder also kanang goes out dito sa society itself. Unsay yung gina-harm? Mingon sila nga, divorce does no harm. It harms the spouse. Anak tong Jesuit ha? Isang pangalan nato niya nga Jesuit. Ang name niya is Seamus Murphy, Irish. Ano siya? It's a lie to say that kanang divorce helps kanang the woman. Because after divorce, ano siya? Economically speaking, after divorce, ang kanang kwarta sa lalaki, musaka. Ang kwarta sa babae munaog. How does that help the woman? Kumingon ka, kailangan maging financially independent ang babae. So, nako'y klase before, summer, ano to siya? Summer class, nag-take na ko. Gitake na ko siya summer because kanang ano siya, kanang tawag na. Dili siya professional course. Kalimut ko sa term na. Sex, Gender, and Society. First class, ano sila, what is the greatest evil? The greatest reason nga no pobre ang Pilipinas. Ano sila because of patriarchy. Because the church does not want women. Dili daw musugot ang simbahan nga kanang ma-free ang mga babae. So to nag-debate me for that whole remainder sa class. Kung kasi pasabot ana kanang misogynist daw ang simbahan. And tungod sa mga conservatives, women remain poor. I don't think kanang naa sila enough data to back it up. Or even kanang ang reality itself, not just quantitative data. Diba? The way for sa tinood lang, the way for women and children to be protected is when they are protected sa marriage, sa mama o papa. Ang babae, protected siya because kanang ang lalaki na yung obligation sa iya. Ang mga bata, protected sila because nasa yung mama and papa. So, not only do they gravely harm katong deserted na spouse, especially ang babae, divorce also traumatizes the children. Not only due to the separation, but also by its contagious effect. It's a contagious effect. Contagious siya because it puts in the mind of the child that there is no vow, no pledge na sacred na dili nimo pwede i-violate. It tells the child na ang momentary experiences of love na iyang nadawat is a lie. Diba? Traumatizing mo na. That is why, in the normal experiences nato, mostly, katong mga tao nga na trust issues, mo to sila, usually ang mga tao na, hypothesis niya, I do not know the numbers, the statistics, the kanang quantitative data backing it up. But, hypothesis na if ang isa ka tao comes from a broken family, mas lisod mag-trust. And dili lang necessarily na broken family kita, but in a family na kanang dili ganin mo makita ng love jud. Ang kanang katong ganina di ba nagstorya about duties. Love should be seen dili lang effective but also affective. Dapat na affection ang spouses. Nga naman kay it is in that early childhood days, especially in the early childhood days, na ma-form sa bata ang katong associations ba on what love really looks like and how do I express love. So makita nimo ang kanang mga bata na very vocal sa ilang pag-express sa love sa ilang parents. Those are the kids na nakita nila silang parents ang pagka-vocal sa ilang affection towards each other. And divorce, what divorce does is to traumatize the child. Na kanang aside from that is a lie, it also forms the association sa ilang mind na marriage is not sacred. Now, mo dito in the future, pag magpakasal ko, pag maminyo ko, dili day assurance na dili ko biyaan. And of course, that hurts sa bata. You cannot say na dili na sakit. You cannot say na, and wala po, it's unfounded ang kanilang ginaingon that children are better off outside sa katong family structure than sa katong na sila sa sulod sa family structure. One example, isa sa reason why gina-advocate sa mga tao ang divorce is because of their quote-unquote right to remarry. In fact, na forum ang UP few days ago, kanang title The Right to Remarry, na si Chief Justice, retired Chief Justice Davide, tapos naputong retired na ba siya ron? Justice, katong si Conchita, paano na to? Napo yung mga lawyers na kauban. The reason why they promote divorce is not really because na abuse, even though part na siya. So that is the reason why bisang minunta nga na may annulment or na may legal separation. They don't want that. Why? Because what they truly want is the quote-unquote right to remarry. What does that do to children? Kabalota by experience and by numbers na children are more likely to be abused by kanang step parent than sa iyang parent mismo. And you say na the right to remarry does not cause evil to the child. Diba, even that, and kita, dili na to kailangan ng numbers, quantitative data to back that up. Intuition na to na as human beings. So, muna siya, those are the following reasons why divorce is evil. But aside from that, tingnan mo ta, divorce is evil. Why? Because kaning mga violation. But also it is a rejection of the reality of marriage, the indissolubility of marriage. But mayroon dayon nga, bibitaw na sa inyong simbahan, it's a civil divorce. Ang kanang sa ilang ginatulak. That is why it's a bill na ginapass nila sa Congress. It's called the Absolute Divorce Bill. Sa meaning anak, absolute divorce. Dili legal separation, dili annulment, but to separate what was already joined sa law. At least sa law, because kani is civil man. We talk about it in civil terms. It's a definition sa civil divorce. Civil divorce is a separation of married partners by civil authority. Dili simbahan ha, civil authority. The authority of courts, the civil government to declare na ang katong marriage is kanang dissolved. Na nanay separation of married partners. So ingon sa simbahan, Church says any civil law permitting complete divorce of a valid marriage is evil and deserving of the most severe condemnation. Most severe condemnation. Ambot og makapasa ba tong statement sa CBCP, but pasalamatan na ay statement at all. Nag-letter ko sa Ateneo asking for a statement because they are not just administrators. Among president is pare. Not just because kanang giboto siya, but by the fact that he should be a spiritual father sa Ateneo. Nag-email ko, no response. Anak ko, okay, basig kanang nabutang na sa spam, wala niya nakita, natabunan. I spoke to one of the priests dito. Anak ko, Father, nag-email mo ko kay Father President, Father Karel. Ana siya na wala ko kabalo nakita niya, but he keeps on talking about divorce daw. And maybe what he needs is statistics to back it up. Ano ko, unsang statistics iyang kailangan? Sa statistics about unsa ang voice sa Filipino nation. Why does he care about that? In principle, against ang simbahan sa divorce. So wala siya ilabot dapat unsay gusto sa mga tao sa Pilipinas by their sinfulness or what. But by the fact that it is in the teachings of the church, it is the law from God himself. By virtue of those things, dapat naghatag na siya og most severe condemnation against the absolute divorce bill. But wala eh. So, tayo mabuhat. Unsa ang evil ani? Bago lang ta nag-discuss about the principle that human authority do not have that civil government does not have any authority to declare kanang Christian marriages divorced or kanang dissolved, separated ang married couples. Meaning ana, for people who have received kanang sacramental marriage, para sa mga Kristiyano nga na minyo, walay divorce. Divorce is not something real. And so the absolute divorce bill is a deception. It deceives us into thinking, into having a twisted understanding of ourselves and of the nature of his marital commitment and bond, of his family and of his nation. 4 things twisted understanding of himself, marital commitment, and bond, family, nature of family, and the nature of his nation. How does this deception work? We know by experience that the laws of our land shapes our beliefs. Kasi pasabot ana, kung unsa ang ginabawal o unsa ang ginaalaw sa law, sa mga batas, those things form our idea of what is reasonable and acceptable. Nasa batas, bawal mong patay. It shapes our beliefs that killing really is wrong. Murder really is wrong. That murder really is not acceptable. And these beliefs also shape our behavior. Kabalota nga, murder is wrong, so dili ta mag-murder. Kay wrong man. We humans act based on what we believe. Now, if naay absolute divorce bill, it deceives us into thinking that something that was joined can simply be separated. Diba? It tells us that our vows, dili jud siya sacred. Na kanang okay lang mamakak or what, or to take back our words. Kaya mo may ginatuluan eh. And so we act it out, which is kanang complete consequence jud ana. The bill therefore teaches us that our words, our pledges and promises mean nothing once committing to such, thus us inconvenience or difficulty. So dili lang na pwede na to i-take back atong word. Ang ginaingon sa divorce bill, pwede na to i-take back atong word pag inconvenient na kaya sa to to do what we promise to do. Or paglisod para sa to do what we promise to do. Like stay in marriage until kamatayon, di ba? Till death do us part. So that's part of the vow. So married life. So isa na sa evil. In terms of marriage and family, ana si Lagman and si Ferrer katong nagsulat ana ng mga law. In divorce proceedings, there is no more marriage to protect or union to destroy because the marriage has long perished. Wala na din marriage to protect, kaya wala na din marriage. Unsa na yung marriage sa iyaha? Sa ilaha. So marriage sa ilaha, lipay-lipay lang. That is a consent-based view of marriage, which is not the Catholic view of marriage. Kaya para sa to, it's a covenant, it's a sacrament. Para sa ila, kung tungod kay human consent lang, it's a private consent between two private individuals. Pwede na po sila magbawi-ay og consent privately. But because na civil consequences ang marriage, gusto po nila na po civil consequences or na po civil na kanang implications ang ilahang pag take back sa ilahang promise sa ilang marriage vow. Anas sila, si Lagman and Ferrer, the institution of absolute divorce is definitely not for couples in harmonious, happy, and vibrant marital relationships. Kisa day na inana na marriage. Diba? Kisa day permanently happy, permanently harmonious, permanently vibrant. Relationships are not static. Nay changes, nay flow ang marriage. Usay, lipay, niya mag-away, niya lipay na pod, mag-away na pod, lipay, mag-away na pod. What absolute divorce bill does is to tell us na pag lipay, away, lipay, away, lipay, away, bisan gamay ang away, that divorce should be part of your option. Kana ilang gusto iingon. Mayroon sila nga, it's only for couple na dili harmonious, happy, and vibrant marital relationship. That is hiding their intention, which is divorce for all. Itanan man dili permanently happy, harmonious, vibrant ang relationship. Dili lang nila gusto aminon. In terms of nation, ang marriage, lifetime commitment, supposedly. Dili pwede mabawi, supposedly. Karon gusto nila pwede na mabawi, gusto pwede na dili lifelong. What that says about our nation is there is nothing that is worth fighting for. Weird lang kay kadalasan na ni sila po itong gusto magyera sa China. They want to fight for something, they want to fight for the land or the sea. They want to fight for anything except their own marriage and their family life. Diba? Say, libog po ni sila. Kasi sila po naglibog. And then, medyo taas-taas na nastorya na ako, but let's end with this. Naisa ka pare, a priest once told me, sadly, a Jesuit once told me, we priests should not talk about divorce or marriage because we are not married. We do not understand the difficulties of married life. Jesuit priest na yun. Meeting me, daga nakadungog. Saan yung gusto ingon? Na by extension, ako, dili po pwede mo storya about marriage and divorce. Why? Unang-una, dili ko minyo. Ikaduha, I come from a family na stable, relatively stable. So, yung ginaingon, is wala po ko'y right to speak about divorce. Because wala po ko kabalo, wala po ko kasabot kung saan the difficulties of married life. What it really means is where this comes from is principle sa modern world ba na immanence, the principle of immanence. That is, our knowledge of truth and of reality is based not sa katong what is formed intellectually in us, not based sa atong intellect, but based on sentiments. And if what we know by our intellect does not coincide with what we know by our sentiments or our experiences or our understanding of those experiences, then dapat atong intellect magpailalom aning mga sentiments. What we think should be subordinate to what we feel. Mo yung ginaingon. And because wala niya na feel ang difficulties of divorce kay dili siya minyo, then wala siya right to speak about it by virtue of his intellect. The second thing that na-reveal niya sa ako pag-ingon niya ato is he does not hear confession that much. Kung wala ka kabaloon sa kalisod ang married life, wala ka naminaw confession. Wala ka naminaw sa mga minyo. Or kung naminaw mo ka sa mga minyo, wala kay labot kung mag-separate sila. Di ba? Sadly, but it should not be the case na kanaganing by sentiment ang atong basis sa tanan nato ginastorya. Okay, what that means is we cannot speak of God because we are not God. Or we cannot speak about the difficulties of being a cat nga walay kaon sa dalan, kay dili ta cat na walay kaon sa dalan. I wonder if these people would speak about the difficulties of being poor, because certainly they are not poor. Or matingala ko kay they speak a lot about women, pero di man sila women. They speak a lot about LGBT, pero dili man sila LGBT, hopefully. Di ba? So why is it that when it comes to marriage, dili sila pwede mong storya, kaya dili sila minyo? Thirdly, kini sila mga pare, dili mong storya og marriage because dili daw sila minyo. Do they really understand their own vocation? Because as priests, they participate in the priesthood of Christ. Kaya kinsa minyo si Christ? Sa church. So kini na mga pare who do not want to speak vocally against divorce are telling us na dili pud sila hadlo muhawa silang pagkapare. Because for priests, ang divorce is to ask the Pope for them to be laicized. Na muhawa sila sa ilang pagkaminyo sa simbahan. These are consequences na madunggan nato based sa statement niya. So, mingon sila nga, okay, fine, pwede mo storya, dili to proper reason para di mo storya si Father. What about the separation of church and state? Mo nang giingon nila, di ba, sa debates about kanang Congress. But there is the principle of separation of church and state. Unang-una, the separation of church and state, as it is understood now, is not a principle of the Catholic Church. It's a recent development because of modernity, because of kanang liberalism, na separated church and state. Separated in terms na kanang makita na to karon, even your own conscience, even by your own Catholic identity, dili ka pwede mo boto against divorce. Kaya mayngon sila, you're just misogynist. You're just kanang wala ka kasabot sa ilang kalisod. But ikaduha, even if dili na siya misunderstood, dili man siya violated when we speak against divorce. Why? Because it is not the church, the Catholic Church as an institution na nagababag ana. The bishop speaks on based on the fact that they are Catholics and based on the fact that they are Filipinos. And just because tungod na sa imong pagkakatoliko nga against kag divorce, it doesn't mean as a Filipino you can vote against divorce. It's within your own right. Kita, Katoliko, against divorce. Mingon sila, bawal kay you should not push your belief towards other people. Wala mo ko nag-push sa akong belief towards other people. What I do is to exercise my right. My right to participate in civil discussions. Ibang mo nilang gusto? So muna, ma-question ako ba, nga nung pag Katoliko ka, you speak on behalf of your Catholic identity against something, bawal. Pero mga feminista, ang mga LGBT, they participate in civil discussions based on their identity, and then they push it sa ato ang mga Katoliko based on the fact that they want to legislate it. Ano pwede? Tapos pag kita Katoliko, bawal. Diba? You have to ask the intention of these people. Sa gyud. Ikaduha, regardless if the church and the state is separated, we know for a fact, we know for reality that Christ is King. The social kingship of Christ. Muning isa sa reason nga daghan mga traditional or conservative Catholics na dili kanang sa tawagan na dili satisfied sa statement sa CBCP. Why? Because ang ilang ginaingon, we can't force something ana. True, you can't force by virtue of kanang your power, dili man mo na sa gobyerno. But you can put kanaganing obligation on the faithful na if you support divorce, you commit sin. Na may right ang simbahan ana by virtue that we owe the church obedience, our due obedience. And the church commanding something to us means na if dili ta mo obey, then we commit sin. But because we've lost ganing sense of the social kingship of Christ, I mean, I can't remember in the past few years that kanang social kingship of Christ na homily about ana, na document about ana, etc. Third, the church is mother and teacher, mater et magister. Ano dili niya pakatawanan ng iyahang pagka-mother and teacher? Ano bawal para sa liberal world for the church to be mother and teacher sa ato? The fact na gina-invoke ni Chief Justice Davide na majority of the Filipinos are Catholics, it doesn't mean nga kanang by virtue of that majority, nanay right ang simbahan as an institution mo intervene. What he says is it is against the morals of the Filipino nation, which is majority Catholic. And this is a democracy. Ang majority ang supposedly masunod as a democracy. Although, mayroon din na sila nga, John Rawls, kailan ka John Rawls? Ikaw, Pat, ang kaning mga pare na dili mo storya about ani, they do not understand that their priesthood is meant to sacralize what is secular. Karon we live in a secular world. Unsa ang ilang ginahimo every time they celebrate the mass, they sacralize katong secular time na nata sa lugar na secular world, they sacralize that world by the fact that they celebrate mass. Meaning, their whole priesthood should be about sacralizing the sacred. Putting signs and symbols of the sacred, of the holy. But kung dili sila mo storya, how do they paunsa nila kanang panindigan ang ilang duty to sacralize the secular? So, we need to tell these priests to speak up. Naundangon nila ilang mga hadlok-hadlok or ilang liberalism and stand up for Christ. At least karon. Similar sa pagtindog sa mga obispo during the time of the RH Bill controversy. And by the way, katong time sa RH Bill controversy, ang ako ang university support tagam gipadalan og representative sa obispo nahilom. Kaso karon wala. Lastly, it does not matter what the state thinks or what statistics says. Truth is truth. katong mga Catholic na nagasupport ani kay tungod kanang we should not force our beliefs to them. Ang dati daw yung pagkatalawan daw. Kanang pangatawan ni mo pagkakatoliko ba? Lisod magud kay ng kanang ganing hadlok-hadlok ka ni sa ilaha. These people, they're not a majority. But simply for the reason that we don't speak up, nasunod sila na majority. How? Kay kadalasan na ni sila mga teacher, mga professor sa college, mga teacher sa high school. And they're teaching garbage sa mga bata. Soon, majority of the population will believe what they believe now. Kasi sila man po yung nagtudlo. Ng forum sa LGBT sa Ateneo. Almost all the students under ato nila tulo. First year pa lang daan. So kana ba kana ganing if you don't speak up, pildihon gyud ta because ingon si Saint Ezekiel na katong obispo na siya sa Colombia writing letters, pastoral letters against kanang liberalism. Ana siya nga there aren't enough people who are standing up for the truth. But dili kulangon ang mga tao, ang mga armies of untruth, armies of evil na naga-educate or propagate of evil beliefs sa atong society. So kana if kita mismo dili mo speak up, kita mismo mga Katoliko dili mo speak up, pildihon gyud ta. And kung pildihon ta, pildi ang simbahan, pildi si Kristo. As of now, diba? Because we know in the end we win. And Our Lady said in Fatima, in the end, my Immaculate Heart will win. But why should the Church care about marriage? Muna yung last. Aside from the fact that sacramental marriage involves an exchange of vows between couples in the presence of God, and that it is God Himself who joins the couple, marriage is also the form of Catholic politics. It's the form of Catholic politics. So, ana si Mark Barnes, kaya si Mark Barnes, thinker na siya sa New Polity. Mga Catholic na sila who are kanang political theorists na mga Katoliko. Ana siya. In building a Christian social order, man never starts from scratch. He starts from marriage. So, dili as individual but as married couple. When we talk about Catholic social order or Christian social order. Recall na to ang discussion ni Sir Kit about the history of salvation. God, although He first created Adam, ordained that it is not good for man to be alone. Hence, out of the rib or the side of Adam, He creates for him a helper, a woman named Eve. And this marriage constitutes the latter part of the beginning of the history of salvation. So, ang latter part, ang sugod sa history of salvation is not really about Adam as an individual, but Adam and Eve as a couple, as a married couple. And the whole, or all other creation was created for this couple. Para, for them to till and to keep. Diba in Genesis, to till and to keep. Why? Because the whole world is kanang, let's not believe these people na kanang everything in the world have the same value. Tao has the same value as a plant, or the same value as a rock, or the same value as an animal. Kaya na mga tao nag-advocate na. But in reality is, ang tao, ang tanan butang, it's created for man, and man is created to kanang ordain or kanang arrange all of these things in the worship of God. Man being the priest. So, to close, allow me to read kaning first part sa gisulat ni Mark Barnes. It's an essay titled Marriage is the Form of a Catholic Politic. Ana si Mark Barnes. Would you like to make an institution Christian? Then make it a marriage. Marriage leaps for virtue like a man leaping for a moving train. It takes two people with their sin, vice, and striving for perfection, and binds them together, saying, "You have up to this point sinned, and the world has gone on unperturbed, lied, and no one has been reduced to tears, amassed 1,000 occasions of wrath, pride, and petty selfishness, and no one suffered for it. Now you will marry. Now all your hardness of heart will knock up against the heart of another. Now that tone, the one you do not even realize you take, will ring in the ears of another. Now the demonic horns you grow in secret will poke and prod the one with whom you share bed and bathroom. You are married. You stand revealed, naked, utterly seen through after a few weeks of honeymoon, your vices now intimately related to a flesh that feels them and a soul that suffers them. Every callus that crusts over your conscience has become so much roughness rubbing against the other who will protest the fact. Marriage makes virtue possible by making it necessary. One can indulge the illusion that virtue is good behavior when one is a child, make a kind merit badge of it when one is a young man, fantasize about virtue as growth in self-mastery deep into one's 20s. But the married man is not virtuous because he would like to be, but because he has freely chosen a situation in which the lack of virtue means hell. Instant hell. So what Mark Barnes wants to point to us by saying that marriage is the form of Catholic politics is really to say na it is in marriage that we learn kanang the principles proper to a Christian social order, like subsidiarity, solidarity, the sharing of temporal goods, the just sharing of temporal goods. Why? Because if you do not follow those principles laid out by the church for the social order, kato yung giingon, hell, instant hell. So, why should we care kung naay divorce or not, kung marriage is properly kanang protected under the current social order, the current kanang way of governance karon? Muna yung last paragraph sa giingon ni Barnes. Ano siya? What is the mission of Christian politics? To make all men brothers, all women sisters, to make fathers and mothers of all those with more power than others, to make children of all those with less, to make cousins of all allies and strangers. Ano siya? To take the seed of charity so obviously present between mother and daughter, husband and wife, and make of it the very model and norm of the social order as a whole. So, ang kato daw love between family or among family members. Kuwaon na nato as a norm of the social order as a whole. So that, when I approach the one who rules over me, be he bureaucrat or king, the governing norm and expectation is that he will treat me as a father treats his son. Morning reason nga important na pangalagaan na to ang marriage and family life. Because it determines how or by what way do we treat others in society. And if we raise children well protected under married man and woman in a family that tries to grow in virtue and educate their children into the spiritual life. When that happens, katong giingon ni Mark Barnes, ang expectation or what will happen in society is that whether he is a king or a bureaucrat na iyang duulon, he will be treated in the way that a father would treat his son. And it is the divorce, the evil of divorce that takes away that opportunity. So kato lang, daghang salamat. So kung naay questions,